I want to acknowledge Maury Schwartz for Tuesdays with Maury. And what we're going to do here, we're calling Sunday Afternoons with Fast Eddie. Kim, you want to lead?
Well, why don't I go while you're reading? When I first met Ed is when I walked into Parkinson's boxing class the first day. And I was a bit uncomfortable.
Your son was with you, huh?
What's that?
Your son was with you?
Yeah, Jeffrey was with me. He convinced me that maybe it was time for me to go to some therapy and to get into a group of some kind to help me out with my movement disorders. We got into the class, and the first person I noticed was Eddie. He was by the door. He was looking at me. He was doing something with either his motorcycle gloves or his motorcycle helmets, and I said, this guy, 20 years older than me or so, and he's in fantastic shape and has a Parkinson's issue. Yet he comes in a motorcycle, and he looks really cool. He wears this little beanie on his head and everything else, and so we go around and we introduce each other within the class, and Eddie was the first one to come up to me, and he walked right into my face and looked right at me in my face and said, "I'm Fast Eddie." And he was the first one to introduce himself. I remember that and he just walked away. That was it. It was just, "I'm Fast Eddie," and he just walked away. But I was intrigued by him, by him just introducing himself and the way he handles himself in the class. And what it did is I looked forward, after I met everyone, and after a few weeks of going to class, and Eddie would search me out, and I would search him out because he made me very comfortable to be near him and be with him. And we became partners in class, so we often take on partnerships in class and help one another out and do our exercises together in partnerships. And I was very, very appreciative of Eddie to take me under his wing, sort of thing, and help me through the first couple of classes and learning the routine and just being comfortable there, because it was uncomfortable for me at that time, because I wasn't newly diagnosed with Parkinson's, but my first time going to any group help like this. So after a while, Eddie starts talking to me about words, and words that we use, and could and should and would and hope and things like this, and what the real definitions of these words are, and when the words should be used and when they should be used, and whether they should exist or not. And then we started having these conversations, and I found it very, very interesting and intriguing. I had never had a chance to speak with someone as smart as Eddie in this way. Even teachers through high school and college and everywhere else. I never had a relationship with someone who could speak to me on that level, or help me on that level, I should say. So I'm very appreciative of that. And since then, every week I look forward to going to see Eddie, more so than going to class. So the class is something that is important to us, and the boxing is something that is important to us, and the movement and the strength and what we're doing to gain there is really important to us. But what's more important is that I get a chance to go see Eddie, and we get to partner together, and he gets to share some of his wisdom with me, which I really, really love. And we bring up subjects that are new to us on that day. Like what movie we saw, what book we read, or who we spoke to recently, and words we used, and conversations and how they went and what we thought about it. And these are levels that I've never had a friend to speak to with, and I really appreciate that. And I just want to tell you, I love you, Eddie, and I'm happy to be here. And I'm happy to know you for the 2.5, 3 years that I've known you, and you've been a big influence on me. I appreciate it.
I have an inclination to show these three guys something like what we do in class. And it's really interesting, you know, Cassius Clay died with Parkinson's disease, one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. And this is kind of one of the things we do. We go pow, pow, and then I'll dance back like this, and then come in, pow, 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 and dance back, and you come in, pow, 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 pow. So that's the kind of stuff we do, and it helps your brain get back in gear, and you can speak a little better.
That's fantastic.
So thank you for being my partner in Parkinson's disease.
Well, I appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you very much. Love you, man.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Love your beanie too, by the way. Looks good on you.
Kim, it's your floor.
Yes, sir. I've known Eddie 30 years now.
Yeah,
Man,
you came to the animal hospital.
I did.
I remember a little
With
kid.
my cat. Yeah. It was awesome. First time I met Eddie, I really wish I could remember the question he asked me. But it was an unusual question, but it's not like I wasn't used to such a question. I've been on a path for a long time.
You've lived in New York, haven't you?
Yes, sir. So I've done a lot of self-inquiry before I met Ed, and so, again, I wish I could remember the question, but the thing is, he just lit up the answer I gave, and he's like, "Oh, I like you." He said, "We're going to be good friends," he said. And he never looked back. It was just fantastic. But yeah, I so appreciate you, Eddie. You're such an authentic. I don't know anyone more authentic than you. Honest to God, you know, you're so real, so honest, so authentic, so present. You know, it's like you're such an inspiration for me, and you know, wonderful to have a presence like you in you know, in this world. You know, that like, there's Eddie, and that you know, I really appreciate your friendship and your leadership and your inspiration and your guidance, you know, and you know, you turned me on to so many great movies and books, and I really appreciate your inquiring mind, you know, and that you're always posing questions, and your fearlessness, that when you interact with complete strangers,
I'm certainly not fearless, but I am brave.
your fearlessness, I said.
Yeah.
You're not completely fearless.
Yeah,
None of us are.
The
But
net effect is I go in anyway,
yes, sir.
yeah,
Absolutely.
quite often.
Absolutely. And anyway, Eddie and I have shared lots of great moments together, meals and seeing movies, and even skiing a time or two together. We used to go to Utah every summer, every spring break for a month. You know, and there was a couple of times that he and I got to ski together, and I just love Eddie. You get on this gondola, right, with Eddie, and right away he's like, he throws some question out there to a group of complete strangers, you know, and just to watch him respond to the question, and usually the question would be like, it'd be like, what this guy asked, I don't even know this guy.
I had an outfit that was kind of gray and tan and so forth, and I wore it all out and it had duct tape all over it. And I went down, at the end of the season, I went down to the shop where they sell clothing, and there was a young lady down there, and I said, I want you to dress me up and just don't listen to anything I say. Just tell me how much it costs and I'll just pay you. She said, okay. Well, she got excited, so she got a bunch of clothes out.
That is all right.
Flashy.
Yeah, for sure.
People would holler from the
Yeah.
chairlift, say, hey, there's Fast Eddie! Fast Eddie on the chairlift! But they were recognizing me by my clothes.
Yeah.
Typical Eddie. It's like, you know, when he went skiing, he rocked it. He was there for 4 weeks, and every day he went skiing. And I don't mean just skiing. I mean, he was there when the damn doors opened, and they were like get out of here at the end of the day.
Wow.
And you know, he'd pack a lunch so he could just, you know, sit down and eat it, and then get on with it. And his typical pattern would be, as soon as he could, he'd latch on a group of young guys
Yeah.
and hang with them. And of course, you know, he'd usually kick their ass, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like, damn, you're badass for an old man.
The remarkable thing about that is I was born in southern Louisiana, where it never snows. Once every 50 years, it might get an inch of snow. So when I was 31, this friend of mine called and he said, "Hey, let's go snow skiing." I said, "Snow what?" "Snow skiing. You actually ski on the snow?" Anyway, I went when I was 31, and I never stopped until a couple of years ago.
All right.
I made a list of my favorite things to do, and the number one was the number two was friendship, and number three was downhill powder snow skiing up in Utah. And I realized one day that the skiing was wonderful. I love skiing, but the chairlift was just as good. The people on the chairlift were from Germany or England or South America or somewhere, and I would say things like, "I've got something to propose to you. Would you hold still for that?" And they would often say, "Sure." I said, "Well, I understand there's two types of human prototypes. One of them says, I've got something to do and someplace to go and somebody to be. And the other one is, I'm nobody with nothing to do and no place to go. Which one of those two would you rather be?" And all the young people would say, "I want to be somebody." And all the old people would always say, "I want to be nobody so I could retire." And it really made me realize that we have kind of the first half of life and the second half of life if we live to be, fairly old, and we just go through all these different phases. Anyone else?
Since I met you in a landmark, which is a sort of a laboratory of language and thought and action and intention and worldview, and it's all kinds of things. Then pretty quickly I met Crazy Mary over there, and we did the 48-hour project together, and I knew immediately that you were special and intriguing and powerful in your own quiet and magical way. But one of the things I know about you and me is I disagree with you all the time.
Yeah.
And it has a different quality. Like when I disagree with my father, he just shuts me down. He basically just shoves me aside and bats me, and it's a no-go. And I have arguments and discussions with other friends of mine. And the book that I thought about, and by the way, if I cry, I'm gonna be proud to cry.
Me too.
Because you invite me and you inspire me and you support me in being myself and taking risks. And you're not the only one, but you're one of the top guys that support me that way. So I'm proud to call you a mentor. And so this book, Meetings with Remarkable Men by Gurdjieff,
Yeah.
a fairly famous philosopher, thinker guy. This book literally called out to me when I sat on Venice Beach in 1985 or 84. And I bought it, and eventually I read it. And he had 10 remarkable men in his life. If I were to write this book, you would be one of those guys. So,
Gurdjieff.
yes, yeah. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. But, so I brought a stack of books, and I'm not going to go into them too much, but these are the kind of books which my father doesn't give a shit about these books. I wrote a book that's on the bottom, I'll introduce it at the very end, but he did read that, but my father and most of my elders, they don't read and discuss books like these, but Ed does, and perhaps you men do. So, like The Four Agreements, a great book. This is just one of many that you've probably read once, if not 10 times. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, this is probably deep within your library. The Black Swan, I think you turned me on to this guy. What's his name? Taleb. So these are the kind of books that you and I would discuss when we would play tennis once or twice a week until he couldn't play tennis anymore. And by the way, when we started playing tennis roughly 10 years ago, he would kick my ass. And I'm an athlete. I'm no slouch, but he would kick my ass. So like 6'0", 6'1". No Ordinary Moments, Dan Millman. I remember going to see Dan out at that retreat spa place.
Called The Crossings.
Yeah, out near Spicewood Springs or something, wherever it was. But like, I was a Dan Millman fan 30 years ago, but it was awesome to find out that you were also an old Dan Millman fan. And then he says, let's go see him. So we did. That was awesome. The Way of the Superior Man, I think you turned me onto this book.
David Yates.
Yeah. So, and I've only read bits and pieces. Ishmael, Daniel Quinn.
Yeah.
Again, another good friend turned me on to this book, but again, these are just books that he speaks this language. Michael Pollan, Omnivore's Dilemma, another great book, and this is all good stuff. So I'm a writer, a philosopher. I don't know if my book or books will ever approach the quality and the caliber in any of these, but this is my one and only book so far that's been published, self-published, called The Contest. And you read it. You honored me very much by not just reading it, but then discussing it with me, and that made me, that was awesome. So, and Ed, perhaps you guys, I don't know if he does this with you, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 weeks will go by, and because I'm a slouch and I don't call Ed often enough, he'll call me, and he shouldn't have to call me, but he does, and he'll just start talking about wild shit, and he'll just say, let me talk to you about this very high level topic, and anyway, you're constantly turning me on to good movies, good books, good ideas, and for that I am very grateful, and I'm honored to be asked here today to share what I see about you and me and us, and it's awesome. So thank you, Ed.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
listening to what I had to say.
Yeah.
This is Michael Poe's new book, How to Change Your Mind.
Awesome. I will have to get it.
Yeah. Who would like to go next?
First, I'd like to start with saying thank you for being the man that you are, for giving me the honor of coming to your home and saying that you have meant a great deal to me in the short time I've known you. And I haven't been friends with Ed for years. I wish I had. But I was drawn to him immediately. There's a spirit there that I was really drawn to. There's a connection. I would like to be more like you. I was knocked down. You gave me support in a concrete, material fashion that helped my family. And I don't know where I would be without that. That really helped me survive when I was injured, got through it, and I never got to say thank you. So thanks, brother. Thanks, Ed. Thank you. But also, you're just really cool. and I've loved getting to know you. And I saw a little snippet from Ram Dass. We both like Ram Dass, his teachings, and he said, it's amazing how people are afraid of losing their wealth and power as they age, but there's a certain type of power that you don't have to worry about losing. And I think that you embody some of that spirit of, the wisdom, the spirit of wisdom, and the spirit and that power. You don't have to be afraid of losing it, and that is who you are to me.
Thank you, Alan, for sharing. Appreciate you guys coming today, and I never would have thought any of those things that you said myself, so thank you for reminding me that I may have actually grown up. I think my goal when I was a teenager was to become a fully functioning adult, and I like the idea of just being true to myself and a blessing to others. And I think I've done a pretty good job in the last 40 years just being more humble and more available to be of value to people. So thank you for honoring me, and I think that when you honor me, you're honoring the effort of mankind to become a fully functioning adult. And that doesn't mean that we don't cry and laugh and act like a child.
Hey, let's have an adventure of pushing our fears back and pushing our normal modes of being, down or away, or let's rise to a new level, and that's what you do all the time. So again, today we're all keeping our clothes on, but I'm trying my best to expose myself fully to you right now.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing, is my integrity is the most important thing in life. More important than my boys. More important than my book or anything else I've done. My integrity. That's my ability to just be in the world underneath and without all the words and props and labels and everything else. And you inspire me. I'm with you in that, I believe. And by the way, I see it in all the people that you invite. I mean, I just met these three today, I think, but it was obvious to me that when I came in today, I was going to enjoy hearing and being with your friends. And the same with Mary. I mean, anybody that I've ever met in this room is awesome, because you're awesome. So, thank you.
So, in closing, let me remind us that we have two sorts of experiences, two kinds of experiences. One is the experienced experience, and the other one is the non-experienced experience. A good example of that would be that they told me that I shouldn't cry when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I didn't cry for 20 years. And now I'd like to remind us that the best way we can be humans is to be sad when we're sad, to be angry when we're angry, to be embarrassed when we're embarrassed, to be a sissy when we're a sissy, to be tall when we're tall, and short when we're short, and not avoid anything. Just be true to yourself and a blessing to others. Repeat after me. I do my thing,
I do
my
my
thing.
thing.
and you do your thing.
And you do your thing.
I'm not in this world to fulfill your expectations,
I'm
I'm not in this world to fulfill your expectations.
and you're not in this world to fulfill my expectations.
And
You're not in this world to fulfill my expectations.
If we can find each other, it's wonderful.
If we can find each other, it's wonderful.
And if we can't find each other, it's just too bad.
And if we can't find each other, it's just too bad. Nice.